Hello and welcome to the Random Thought Show. My name's Jacob Tober.
And my name's Durham McInnes. On the show, we talk about anything and everything in fitness, high performance, and health. All right, welcome to Core Advantage Random Thoughts Show, episode 140, 141, whatever it is. That's not the important detail. The important detail is we're joined by a very special guest, Josh Keily, or Kylie.
Kylie.
People call you Keily, but it's actually Kylie.
Both, yeah.
It can be confusing. So Josh is our most well-qualified strength and conditioning coach, athletic development coach here, and heaps to chat about. So firstly, let's go a little bit out of order. What is it that you most like about working as an S&C?
Favourite part of this job would be the wide variety of athletes and case studies and situations that I find myself exposed to. Mm-hmm. I feel like you just don't know who's going to walk through the door next. So many different sports, so many different ages, levels of competition, pathologies. That's the best I find.
There's a lot of variety, isn't there? Yeah. In terms of your qualifications, you keep it on the down low. You're quite young, so people don't expect you to have so many degrees. Because basically you've got 3 degrees, haven't you?
Yeah. So when you say most qualified, that's only in terms of like
you've got the letters. You're captain of the letters. How old are you?
25.
25, still very young. Yeah. Take us through your journey. So straight out of high school. Into the degree at Deakin.
Yep.
And where did you go to high school?
So Mazenod College in Mulgrave. Yep.
Shout out to the Mazenod boys that we had in yesterday. We had the Mazenod volleyball team.
Best volleyball in the state, country.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
They have a serious program. Like their coach Josh is like.
Yeah, it was good. I got to catch up with him yesterday.
Right, you guys know each other.
Yeah, he was year level above me, I believe.
There you go. Yeah, and they've been operating since 1973. They're quite a serious club, it seems. So.
In terms of volleyball,
yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's quite serious, and very professional.
Yeah, they are. They're very good.
So did you get taught? I've probably asked you this before, but did you get taught by Gary Fox, my mentor?
He coached me year 8 basketball. Never had him as a teacher.
Yeah, Gary Fox is a basketball coach. Yeah, that's pretty. So for those of you who don't know, Gary Fox was my boss at the Dandenong Rangers, and also was an assistant coach with the Australian Opals, head coach of the Australian Sapphires. One of the best coaches in the history of this country, and he was coaching you in year 8 basketball.
Yep.
That's pretty good going.
I remember the interview with you here for the internship, going through high school. You saw Mazenod. You asked me, "Do I know Gary Fox?" Yep. I said yes, and you said, "This place wouldn't be if it wasn't for him." And I just went, "Yes, perfect, good connection to have."
Yeah, it's true. Like he was really the driving force, because he was the one that had so much faith in everything I was doing, and then that led to Charles Ryan, who's president of Dandenong, starting to send people here, and he was very much the start of all that. So yeah, pretty cool. So you went to Mazenod. Obviously did really well because you got into Deakin, because it is hard to get into.
Yes, not as good as I wanted. I wanted a 90 ATAR and I got like an 89.
Oh, really? Heartbreak.
Shattered. Got first round offer to the double degree, so the sports science / sport management business.
Yep.
Went straight into that from high school.
And tell me, why did you choose that? Because the double degree is, in my experience, often for people who just don't know what they want to do, so they're hedging their bets. Was that you?
That was me. I always liked sport growing up, playing sport, but you get to the point when you realise you're going to make it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And early on I knew I was going to make it. And I was like, well, next best thing, sports science, I can help people make it.
Mm-hmm.
Still involve myself in the process.
Yep.
The reason the double degree was got the ATAR to get in. May as well keep my options open.
So was that a higher score than...
Yeah, when I did it was like you needed a 92 to get in. So that's why I was so shattered I didn't get my 90, because I was like, I'm not going to get in.
Not going to get it, right.
But I don't think they had enough offers, so I got first round still.
That's great.
I got in, hated the business side, because it's not what I wanted to do in the end. Stuck to it.
And so talk us through that. So, business degrees are... it's like a lot of degrees in it. The level of relationship between what you learn in a business degree and what you then go practice, there's a lot you don't learn and a lot you do.
Yeah.
What did you find tough about it? Was it just stuff you just had no interest in?
Well, the fact that I didn't do any business subjects at school didn't
yeah.
help, so I struggled mightily in first year, just not knowing anything.
What are you doing first year in the degree? So you're doing...
I remember doing accounting, business statistics or analytics, something like that, which was just crazy math, management, marketing, that sort of stuff, which just wasn't
for you.
Wasn't for me. Yeah.
I started a marketing degree and then dropped out of it. And it was interesting. Some of the subjects I liked, and some of them I was just like, not for me at all. But I'll never forget, I was in a financial modelling subject, and I was mucking around, not paying attention. And a mature age student turned around in front of me and she was like, "One day you're going to need this and you won't know how to do it."
Mature age students.
Right. And at the time I was like, yeah, whatever, lady. But then when we were trying to set up the business, I was like, I need to do financial modelling and I can't do it. And I thought of her. She was very, very right. If you're in a financial modelling class, you should do it.
Listen,
it's a super useful skill.
Yeah,
Did you do modelling at all? Any of that stuff with accounting? Yeah.
I think the actual subject was called accounting for decision making. So
Okay,
it was just the basics. But then we go into like economics, finance, all that stuff in the later years.
I think it's been helpful for you here. I think you've got a bit more of the business mindset. So I think that's been useful in little bits and pieces, hasn't it?
Well, like I say, I didn't enjoy the degree, but I'm glad I did it still because who knows when it's going to come in handy down the line.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone's going to need an idea of business because you're all going to most likely work for one.
Yeah.
So
even if it's not a business in private sense, like even a footy club is still a business.
Still a business, yep.
Okay. So you went through the degree, did well, enjoyed it.
Yep, enjoyed it.
But that wasn't enough. You wanted more. Tell us about that. So you finished the undergrad. So you did your hours at Rise?
Yes, Rise Health Group in Roeville.
Tell us about that.
So got into that because my partner's family saw them as a physio.
Okay. Yep.
Recommended that I go check them out for my placement hours, which I did. It was around the corner as well, which was handy, like 2-minute drive.
That's good.
And that's where I found the love for S&C. So
you weren't sure at that point?
No. Still didn't know what avenue of sports science I wanted to go down. Doing that really locked me into this though. Seeing all the different sports there that we dealt with. So we netball, footy, soccer, basketball, volleyball.
And it's quite a big
golf.
academy. Like there's a lot of athletes, isn't it?
Yeah, I was surprised. Being exposed to all those different sports as well as junior athletes and the athletic development side of that, like really sparked my interest.
Yep.
Worked under some great guys there as well, which really helped me with my
Matt Pollard heads up that program,
Pollard,
and he's awesome. He's a good friend of ours, and he's great.
Yeah, Keegan, Lee, and Tommy as well.
Some good operators. Yeah.
Very smart guys.
Yeah, that's cool. But you decided you wanted more study. You hadn't had enough. Tell us about that.
So wrapped up. God, I don't even know how many years ago now.
That's okay.
Whenever it was, finished it up and thought, what's next? Go straight into the workforce. Do I want to further education? And I thought I'll keep studying, see what's next. Was looking into masters because I knew the stats. Like there was so many people that would graduate with sports science every year, and only minimal jobs. And so how do you?
It's like 5,000 people around the country or something ridiculous. And there's 7 jobs.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you get ahead? Further study is going to help that. So decided masters was for me. I was tossing up between the strength and conditioning masters through ECU or Deakin offered the applied sports science masters for the first year. Yep. Perfect timing for me.
So you were the first cohort going through that, yeah?
There was 14 of us, I believe.
That's an intimate cohort.
Yes. Yeah. All online.
Okay.
There was 2 intensives down in Geelong where we all got to meet and go through group stuff. But yeah, my decision to go to the Deakin one was I went to the info night at Deakin, run by Eric Drinkwater.
Eric's great. Do you know, we're doing a bit of testing for Bustle Victoria at the moment, and he's on my mind a lot because he's in all the papers that get cited.
He's done a lot.
He's done a lot. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. So Eric was there, and
Eric was there. He was talking about the pros of the masters, and the one thing he was saying was that it's going to touch on all aspects of sports science, but in a deeper level than the undergrad, which I thought that's great. Rather than go to ECU and hone in on S&C, they'll really pigeonhole me. Whereas if I go the applied sports science, we learnt more about high performance management, performance analysis, data analysis, video analysis, as well as the strength and conditioning.
And you got to pick your own thing a little bit more as well, did you? Like in terms of the subjects, or was it all laid out for you?
It was all laid out, but when it came to doing the first part of the research, that's where the topics we got to choose.
Yeah, okay.
It was what we wanted.
What was your favourite subject, if any, out of the masters? So it's nine units?
Oh, no, I think a few more than that. It was 3 trimesters, 4 units in each, so 12. But I actually think it was 10 because the research and placement counts as 2.
Okay,
So 10 units. Well, I'd have to say the best ones were S&C.
Yeah.
Why else would I be? Yeah. I didn't enjoy research, so throughout the masters, I was contemplating: do I go on and do a PhD after this? Like, where does this end? Which I would love to do one day.
I wish I'd done that when I was young, because now it's like, I'll be dead by the time I finish.
Don't tell me that, because then I'm going to go do it. I wanted to do it a bit later in life.
Well, you'll have more context when you do it later.
That's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just found doing all the...
I just want a PhD in vertical leap. That's what I would just want to be like Dr. Jump. I just think that would sound really cool.
I just want to be a doctor. I joke with my friends, they're all studying osteopathy, and they're all going to be doctors by the end of it. And I would say, like, if I ever get my PhD, we could all be doctors. And they say, just imagine us all sitting around our white coat, drinking our red wine on the weekend, just being doctors. That'd be the life. But no, like, I did the systematic review and found research is hard.
Yeah. It's a grind, right?
Yeah, the academic side is pretty hard and grueling. And so at the end of the masters, you get the choice to either follow up the systematic review and do a actual thesis, research, or you can go down placement.
Yep.
So I went to placement.
Okay,
which led me here.
Yeah, so placement led you to the Deakin Melbourne Boomers.
Yep.
And you were in charge of implementing the partial yo-yo test thing that was my idea. Yeah.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah. Really interesting. Well, you should tell, because you were doing all the research. But it was by Dr. Darren Burgess, was the pioneer of it, and predicted VO2 max off a yo-yo. Yeah.
So the research topic was to collect data using, I think it was the Zephyr units, to get heart rate variability and heart rate recovery post yo-yo. So I did the placement side of that. So I did a systematic review on heart rate recovery, and then followed it up and did data collection with another student who was doing the actual topic as his research. So I would attend the Boomers trainings.
Who was that?
Ash Crawford.
Ash, yeah.
And we collected the data from all the trainings, doing the yo-yos, as well as their accelerometry data through our games as well. And that's where I met you. One of the first pre-season trainings, I believe.
Yeah, early on at Nunna, yeah.
You were taking them through warm-up 2.0 back then?
Yeah, it was still 2.0.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I remember you came over to me and Ash were sitting at the scorers table, and you came over to explain why you were doing static stretching because of the taboo around it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And then...
Well, you can't do static stretching in front of people with sports science degrees and be like, hey, we've actually got this angle on this and this works, trust me. You don't want people to think that you don't know the...
Yeah,
yeah.
And like, well, I'd heard of Core Advantage. I knew of you guys. I've been following for about a year, I believe, on social media. So like, I knew your way of thinking was on top of it. So I was like, and you came over and said, yeah, check out our article on static stretching to explain why we're doing it. I'm like, okay. You're like, you should also apply for the internship. I'll do that.
Always recruiting.
I will do that.
Yeah, and you did, and then you had the interview. So it's timely because applications are closing for the next round of interns. So some good tips about the interview and perhaps your internship process as well. Tell us, about that. How did you prepare for the interview? I
thought I prepared awesomely. I put a whole day aside the day before the interview.
Okay.
12 hours, I reckon, of watching as much podcast,
really
reading articles, going through everything.
Cramming. That's intensity.
Cramming.
Yeah.
That's just my study habits, was to cram though.
Yeah. And was that because you had a sense that this was a really good opportunity? Like,
yeah.
What gave you that sense? It wasn't just me saying you should do it. What was it that because not everyone is as across what an opportunity it is in terms of capping off their studies. How did you? Was there a mate that had told you?
No, so the way I heard about you guys was I think I was just at the gym with two of my friends, and one of them was telling me about deadlifts, and went on a bit of a tangent saying, I read or heard this thing about deadlifts, about why they're from a certain height from the floor because of the width of the plates. And went on a bit of a tangent about that. I'm like, oh, that's really interesting thinking, blah, blah, blah. Later that day, I went home. I'm just scrolling on social media, and I come across a video that's sponsored Core Advantage is there. And I watch it, and it's like, why deadlifts are from this certain height.
Oh,
like,
really?
Yeah. And it was that whole tangent. I was like, oh, that's surely where you got this from. But like, I'm going to give these guys a follow. It's pretty interesting thinking. Like, that's something I never would have thought of. And so I followed you.
Just quickly for those who haven't been across it, the diameter of Olympic plates, of bumper plates, you ask people why it is, and they're like, oh, well, it's because of the biomechanics. It's the perfect height to lift off. It's like, nope. It was the largest lathe they could find at the time, so it's completely arbitrary. In another, like in an alternate universe where there's a bigger lathe, we might have them the size of small bike wheels, or like quite a bit bigger. Who knows? Yeah, it's quite arbitrary. Anyway, sorry, go on.
Where was I at?
So you gave us a follow, and that started to get a sense that this might be a place you'd be interested in.
Yeah, so I followed you guys for a while, and then meeting you, hearing there was an internship application, looked into that, thought this is exactly what I want to do.
Yeah, cool.
And
so you studied up hard, 12 hours, and so you were ready. You came in here, I've got this.
So prepared, I was ready for it. And then we do still nervous though, still slightly nervous. I remember we did the physical component at the start. Mm-hmm. So I think it was a push-up, squat, and just a 10-meter sprint.
Yeah.
And I know sprinting mechanics. I know your opposite elbow goes out in front of your opposite knee. And I still stuffed it up, and you called me out on it straight away, and I was like, no, damn it, I knew that.
Well, it's hard because you're nervous.
Exactly.
Your processing's not as good.
Yeah.
So you started with samesies arm-wise.
Yep, samesies. So embarrassing.
Still, it didn't hurt you. You still did okay. And then the actual interview process itself, how did that go?
Came in. I found I answered questions pretty good. I found until we got to all the anatomy stuff.
Yep. Don't give the answers away.
I'm not going to. I think I was coming fresh off the year of masters, and there was no anatomy subject, so like we didn't dive into it, so it wasn't front of mind. Exactly. Yeah. I hadn't done anatomy since like second year undergrad, so it was not at the front of my mind. And I remember bombing that part of it.
Right.
Like, no, I've ruined it.
Yeah. So you walked out of here thinking,
I was just
done?
Well, I walked out because like small world, because of networking, we had a few connections. I was like, definitely got that up there, but depends how much value you places on that anatomy, because I really stuffed that up. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm strongly of the opinion that if you are going to work in strength and conditioning, you need to know what the muscles are, what they do, and how to strengthen them. Yep. So I'm always interested in what people's functional anatomy is like. It's getting better and better. I think every year people are either, I think there's a confluence of events. I think the unis are doing a better job of teaching it. So Deakin now has a chair of functional anatomy, like they've actually got a role. And I think also people are doing a better job of knowing they need to study up. So the word's got out that if you're going to do this interview, you want to be on top of that. So I'll have to find other ways of. Probably will eventually have people answering so well that it doesn't serve as a.
Well, there was one question in addition last one.
So, a new one, yeah.
Not giving it away, but
just to mix it up.
Exactly. Keep people on their toes.
And yeah, I mean the reason that you got through was, I think, that although you didn't know everything perfectly, I think there was that sense that passion kind of shone through, and also that people skill stuff.
Yeah,
because it doesn't matter. You can be the king or queen of all the other stuff, but if your interpersonals aren't in place, it's going to be difficult to connect and engage with the athletes.
Very true.
So that was the experience of getting into the internship.
Mm-hmm.
You then proceeded to knock it out of the park.
Thank you.
It was one of the most. So we, as a team, we always talk about how the interns are going, who needs more help, who's where's everyone at, and you were, and also just where are they at in terms of is this someone that we might want to have be part of our team, and you were smashing it from day one in terms of everyone's like, yeah, Josh is killing it. What is it that you brought to it that enabled you? Because I could see externally that you were just doing great. did you have a particular strategy? Like you got in, and tell us about the thought process.
Just play to my strengths, I think, and learn, like steer into my areas of weakness. So knowing that anatomy was like an area that I bummed, try to ask those sort of questions, but still lean on my strengths where I'm really good with junior athletes and connecting and that sort of stuff, which I was made aware of in my previous internship with Rise. I think Matt Pollard actually told me in one of my reviews that that's an area of strength is working with juniors, which I hadn't really realised. And then I look back and I've got so much experience dealing with juniors.
Well, you've got a great resume. Your resume has been building to Core Advantage for quite a while.
Exactly, that's how I felt. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about that. So you've had a bunch of jobs that I think have flowed really nicely into those. It was Macca's the first.
Yeah. So Macca's, everyone starts off with something like Macca's.
I think it's great to start something like Macca's where you've got to work within a system. It's not particularly exciting work, but you've got to just work under a bit of pressure because there's often a time pressure.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us all about that.
Macca's, like they have standards. I think it was like 30 seconds to get an order out. I was there way too long though, but I was there maybe 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, right.
But I'm glad I did it because, like as you said, it's great opportunity. Like as your first job,
good grounding.
Yeah, it's you have to work hard and like listen to management and things like that.
Work hard, listen, do pretty repetitive tasks.
Yeah, exactly. And
was that where you became a vegan? Was it were you a carnivore pre-Macca's?
I was a carnivore at Macca's. I've only been vegan for this year. Vegetarian 2 years now.
Yeah, okay.
I think.
Yeah, right.
But it probably helped steer me down that path.
So you're there for 4 years.
Yeah, about 4 years. It's great to have on the resume because like people know how hard you have to work.
Yeah, employers really rate that.
Yeah, exactly. And then from there, came to the realization I don't want to be at Macca's anymore, earning my casual work. So applied to a trampoline park that was just around the corner, opening up where I lived. Worked there for a few years.
And what did you do there?
Host birthday parties, you teach people tricks on the trampolines.
Okay.
Just the main job is to engage with customers, so build connections. Like as much as the trampolines are like the attraction for them, it's also the experience they have. And as a worker, you add to that experience by engaging with them. Not so much there. That was more at Bounce. I found that sort of culture.
So you moved on to Bounce. And which Bounce did you work at?
In Glen Iris.
The first one?
The first one, the big one.
Can I tell you a Bounce story?
Yeah.
So I hope my wife doesn't. I'm a pretty decent chance my wife won't listen to this one, so I'll be okay. So we were in the stages of setting up Core Advantage, getting it all up and running, and I was, I had the concept and all these, a lot of moving parts that we're trying to get to come together. And my wife and Kate was pretty. She wasn't that on board with the risks we were having to, because it's a big risk to do a thing as big as this. And I happened to be visiting Iron Edge at their old showroom, which was right next to Bounce Glen Iris.
Really?
And I walked past and I saw this humongous warehouse with all these welders welding, because they're welding all the rig.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, what are these guys? Because it was the first trampoline park on a grand scale that we'd seen. And I came home and I was like, oh, you should check this out. And I remember it got all put together pretty rapidly. And it turns out in a small world thing that one of my friends and former clients were involved in some of their branding stuff and knew the guys.
Yeah.
So we used to train a graphic design company called Storm that then became Truly Deeply, and so a mate of mine was there. So there was a bit of a connection there. Yeah. But anyway, I remember showing Kate all of the Bounce stuff. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be huge. And she's like, what are you talking about? It's not going to be huge. And it was.
It's huge.
It's huge.
Yeah. They're in like nearly 30 countries now, I think. Just
it's
Bounce alone.
Amazing. Yeah. Interesting business story too, in that they did the tramp only thing and then had approximately 1 million competitors copy them in about 4 years.
Which is where I started as a competitor.
A competitor. And then to further differentiate themselves, they've gone with the obstacle stuff, which is harder to, like, getting a tramp place up is relatively easy. getting a good quality obstacle stuff. So did you do obstacle stuff as well, or?
Yeah, well, there they had the X Park, which is
The
like
X
that
Park?
freestyle running area. Loved it.
So can you do like proper parkour-y things?
Like I could do the course. Like they
Yeah.
had the big wall you had to run up, which is like the same height as the Ninja Warrior course on TV. I
okay.
could do that. I could do all the rings. Like,
Do you know
all the
much
fun
about the
stuff.
story of the evolution of parkour?
Nah.
Okay, so pretty interesting. So parkour is a sport it's a sport that evolved out of France, particularly out of Paris, and it was also called free running, and it was the idea of these kids who turned running around jumping off buildings into a sport. And so the real parkour guys, and that was a bit of a catalyst for all the Ninja Warrior stuff, and it was, we'll see if we can find something. I'll make a little note on YouTube about parkour. The guys, the stuff they do, like the death-defying stuff they do, not recommended for you at home, but cool to watch.
Well, I knew a
Amazing.
fair few of people like that was into that. Like the
Yeah.
sort of people that would work at Bouncer
Are into
those
that kind
sorts
of-
of people.
yeah.
So like, I'm actually friends with someone who does that for a profession, travels the world doing that sort of stuff. But along with that, working with people from like the circus and
Yeah.
gymnasts, trampolinists, that sort of stuff. So
That's cool.
yeah.
So when I met you, you were still working there. So you're
Yes.
you were finishing off the masters and you're
I was
working.
working there and I was working retail, just at a streetwear store.
Okay, yeah, all good groundings. Yeah. So in terms of your stuff at the Boomers, were there any interesting takeaways? Like, did it differ to how you thought it would be? Often people will often build their whole life into working with an elite sporting context, and then they'll be there, and it's not quite how they thought it would be.
Well,
what was it like for you?
It wasn't exactly the part of elite sport that I'd want to do, like the data collection,
yeah.
like pretty tedious. Especially since I wasn't doing anything with the data. That was the other student's job.
Right, so you really were
so
just collecting.
I was just a data collector. But from that, I got to come here and shadow, I think it was 2 or 3 sessions here, shadow you while you were taking the Boomers through, and that's the sort of stuff that I enjoyed.
Yeah, okay.
I remember walking in and getting to follow some of the girls around, seeing what they were doing. You were explaining like why they do certain exercises, like to hit certain parts of the anatomy. I'd recently had a back injury. You took me through multifidus and all that. And I was like, this is what I want to do.
It's pretty cool. And so you knocked the internship out of the park. You did really well. Did you have an inkling that you were going to get a job, or did you start to think, oh, I'm doing all right here? Because I reckon everyone's always kind of seeing where they're at in the pack.
Yeah. Well, like I was in a tough cohort.
You're in a good
I was
cohort.
a very good cohort.
Yeah.
I felt like in place here. I felt like this is where I belonged. Like the junior athletes, like the culture, connecting with everyone, like the level of thought that goes into all the programming and like the process. This is where I want to be, and so I did feel like this was my place.
Cool.
But I didn't want to be overly confident or cocky, thinking, I've locked in a job.
Yeah.
But it was just more one of those things like just law of attraction. Just I want to
Yeah.
work here. I'm going to do my best. Like I'm just going to think about working here. I'm going to tell people how good this place is and that sort of stuff. And then it all happened.
And just kind of float out of that. Yeah. That's pretty cool. How's it? And I don't want you to be a suck up here. Like if it's disappointing in some ways, let's kind of talk about that. How's it been different working here to what you thought it would be?
I don't know whether I thought too much about what it would be like. Well, actually, I guess what we do here during the day, I never thought about. Just like no one ever
does.
thinks about. No one ever thinks about.
People think we just go surfing. We just hang out, and
Yeah,
the programs are all just magically there when they arrive.
So there's aspects of the job I never thought like
Tell
I'd
us
never
about that.
considered. So like things like making phone calls or like collecting payments, like all the admin sort of side of it is something that I was never interested in. Like administration as a job just sounds like it's not for me, but it's a part of the job. It has to be. So
We all have to do it a
Exactly.
little bit,
Exactly.
Like you guys have got to follow people up and sort out, freezing memberships and all that kind of
Exactly.
stuff. And I've got to pay bills and
exactly.
do accounting.
But then like going into all the programming and like dealing with physios and like there are other things I didn't consider, but that's the stuff that I am enjoying. Yeah.
And you're not. Everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. You don't love working the telephone.
I hate phone calls. I hate phone calls.
But you've gotten better at it, haven't you? Like you've realised it's a skill. You still because you can get by socially with just texting your mates, but in life and business, you do have to be able to.
So one of the great things about this job is working till 8 when my partner Renee, she'll finish at 5, and what she would used to do is like her long drive home from work, she would call me just to chat, and I'd answer like, yeah, what do you want? And she'd be like, I just want to chat. Like, how's your day been? I'm like, I'm busy. Like, I don't want to talk to you. She's like, I'm bored. I'm driving. Let's chat. And now I don't get that anymore because I'm at work. It's perfect.
That happens to Kate and I, but in reverse. In that I have this terrible habit of calling her when I'm driving home. At around 8 o'clock. And she's just got the kids to bed. She's trying to tidy up, and she just doesn't want to chat to me at all. And sometimes she'll do revenge calls. She'll call me up and say, "Hey, do you want to chat? I'm driving." I'm like, "All right." Pretty funny. So last topic. One of the things that I find most interesting is how defensive your veganism makes people. I think that's so interesting. How because people really react different. Tell us about the different reactions. I want to dive into the defensiveness.
Okay, it's a natural reaction that people have. Like when, like I don't go around telling people I'm vegan. I don't advertise it. If it comes up, it comes up.
You don't slap hamburgers out of people's hands and say, "What are you doing? Meat is murder."
As one of the first things people ask me when they find out, they're like, "Are you one of those protesters?" No, I don't have to be a protester to be vegan. It's this weird dynamic that when people find out that you're a vegan, they feel morally attacked, because I think like defending animal rights and that sort of stuff, like no one's against animal rights. Like people will see that being vegan is going to be more down that line, and they feel attacked as if I'm going to be on a moral high ground looking down on them like you're doing the wrong thing.
I think because it makes us carnivores, and I guess omnivores, us omnivores, it makes us all feel pretty bad about it, because, like we love our pets, but we murder animals and eat them. Like
exactly.
That's a bit of, and I think most of us get by with that by actually not thinking about it. Yeah, and every time you meet a vegetarian or a vegan, you are forced a little bit to think, oh, they've made, because the more you like meat, the more you think, oh, they made the decision to forego that deliciousness on a moral or like on an ethical or environmental ground, which are both sort of moral things.
Well, one of the things that really tipped me over the edge was the concept of, like, in this country, you could either get paid to kill a certain animal, go to jail if you kill another. Like, what differentiates that? Like, who decides that?
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
Yeah, there's something up
Would
there.
you crickets, as in the insects, they're now being pushed as a much more sustainable source of nutrition, so that you can buy the Exo cricket bars, you can buy cricket flour. In a post-apocalyptic Mad Max nightmare Earth in 100 years, if everything's gone horrible, I think crickets will become a pretty standard thing. And they're even making cricket chips. Like you can get salt and vinegar cricket chips.
Are you trying to sell me on eating crickets?
No. I'm just curious. Would is that something that you would ever consider? Like, is there like no one cares about insects. Is this? Would you consider that, or if you just are you getting by without the crickets, so you're good?
No, I would not consider that. The basics of it is I can survive eating plants alone. Survival situation, the classic scenario I get pitched is if you're on a deserted island. I'm guilty of this as well. I used to pitch this to vegans. If you're on a deserted island, there's no food around at all, like, and there's a pig, like, would you eat that pig? The thing is, being vegan, like, the idea behind it is to not harm animals as much as possible. It's not about being perfect. So if I'm in a survival situation where I need to eat a pig to survive, I'm eating the pig.
Yeah.
If it comes down to eating crickets or I can eat plants to survive, I'm eating the plants. If it's only a cricket's there, I'll eat the cricket. Yeah. Don't put me in that situation though. I don't want to eat crickets.
I really there was a great interview with Joe Rogan and Russell Brand on Joe Rogan show a while ago. And Russell Brand can carry on a little bit, but but it actually accidentally unearthed a few interesting things because I think he's a vegan or vegetarian.
He is. Big activist.
And whereas Joe is
very anti.
But it was really good because it's so rare that those two worlds will meet and actually have a civil conversation and engage with each other. But Joe's point was that he tries to live ethically in the sense that he hunts, so he prefers elk, and so he will kill 2 elk a year, and that's 90% of his meat eating right there. And it was really interesting because, the worst thing you can do is eat chicken all the time because there's so many chickens. You could have 50 to 200 chickens a year dying because of you.
There's billions dying.
Right? But Joe's case was the following. He said, look, I kill them he does it with a bow and arrow. And I hunt, I eat what I hunt. I do it a couple of times a year. And I aim for a really clean shot. I try and make it as humane as possible. And the thing that got me interested was and I'm not, this is not me trying to win Josh over. It's just an interesting thing to chat about.
I love to talk about it, yeah.
Yeah, the thing that he said was, here's my view. If you're an animal in the wild, no animal has a good death. Animals don't die in their sleep.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be eaten by something else. You're going to have a predator eat you. And if you're doing it the way I do it, it's kind of like I'm a predator and I'm eating that animal, and it's and I literally live off a couple of year. So it's like, so I'm good with that. And I was like, that's a pretty good. I had never thought about the fact that like animals are going to have pretty unpleasant. Like I'd much rather be an elk that roams around, has a great life, and then gets taken out by a clean shot than be a cow in a slaughterhouse.
In terms of that, like I feel like there's 3 main reasons to be vegan. There's the health side of it, there's the ethics, and then there's the environment side of it. In terms of the environment side of it, killing 2 elk a year is going to save so much, like for the environment in terms of like burning the Amazon and like all the emissions, that sort of stuff. So he's doing well on that side of it. In terms of the ethics, I would argue, how can you humanely kill?
Yeah.
Like if you're comfortable putting yourself in that position and being killed that way, then sure.
Yeah.
And then the other part of that would be to justify it based on what wild animals do. We're not wild animals. There's certain things wild animals do that if we did that in society, you couldn't get away with.
You'd be in a lot of trouble. Yeah,
but
I agree.
In terms of the environment though, like that would have a smaller footprint.
It'd get a Josh Tick.
Just a very small one.
Very small Josh Tick. What happens, so at the moment, we all just blind ourselves to the fact that, animals are more intelligent than we realise and we just eat them. What happens when 5-10 years down the track we have the artificially grown
lab
meat? It's going to be. I think we're on the cusp of. I think we're going to look back in 40 years and back on an era where we ate animals. We're going to look. Whoa, were we savages? I think there'll be a point in time where we're able to just grow all of our own meat, and no one has to. No consciousness. No consciousnesses have to be extinguished.
No sentient beings.
Yep. Yeah. And already they've grown meat in the lab. It cost $400,000 for one burger's worth of meat. So it's high cost. But a lot of big serious investors are sinking money into it because they know that this could be the environmental, ethical. It could be a real turning point. Kind of the equivalent of solar almost, but for nutrition. Will you get around? Let's just say it fast tracks, and because humans we're very poor at predicting what's going to happen in the future. Like we say, this is going to, like we think hoverboards are going to happen tomorrow, and they don't, or we think electric cars are never going to happen.
Well, actually, I think according to Back to the Future, we're due for a hoverboard.
It's one of my favourite Seth Century songs. Have you heard "Where's My Hoverboard"?
Yeah, I have.
I love that song. Song of the year 2017, whenever it was. But yeah, are you assuming things go great and all of a sudden there is this environmentally sustainable thing? Would you jump back on board, or do you reckon it would be too hard now?
First reaction is no, but I would do my research. I would want to know what's in the lab grown meat, because as I mentioned before, those three areas, like yes, it ticks the environment, yes, it ticks the ethics. What is in that? What would that be doing to my health? Because there are certain things that you get from meat that you don't get from plants and stuff like that. So I'd want to look into that.
Because the pitch would be, I think, that you could get meat that is, if you're genetically engineering it, you go, okay, let's splice a bit of kangaroo in because that's got really good B12. Let's do a bit of this because we're going to get some Wagyu fat into it, so it's going to have a nice, like, you could really make a pretty cool steak, I suspect. But we'll find out.
But I feel, first instinct is I can survive on plants. I am surviving on plants. I'd probably keep surviving on plants.
Sounds like a solid game plan. Awesome. So I think that's been a great episode. Thanks heaps for coming on the show and telling your story. And if you are an intern applying, don't feel the need to cram for 12 hours. Josh might have done, but put your homework in. I think it does pay
research.
off. Yeah,
do your research.
Nice one. All right. Cheers, guys.
Thanks.
See ya. And before you go, hear from our alumni about the online mentorship.
I learnt the theory stuff at uni, but I didn't know how to apply it. And coming to Core Advantage was how I bridged that gap. So I knew the stuff, but I didn't know how to do the stuff.
It was something that I needed to do personally for my own development, and it's allowed me to work in elite sport for now 5 years. So it was a massive help.
I think mentorship is really important, and being able to ask questions all the time, and the Core Advantage course allows that because there is a big team of people that you can ask questions.
I get to, train professional athletes every week, work really closely with professional athletes, which is awesome. A lot of the skills that I'm applying, I learned through the program at Core Advantage.
It's not just something that you read and then think about and then go, oh, how does that tie into everything? It's something practical that you can turn around and go, this is exactly how I'm going to apply it. And the concepts that you learn help you as a coach, as a professional, as a person. Yeah, it's awesome. Definitely go and do it.
Semester 3 of the mentorship is now open. Apply at coreadvantage.training/mentorship.